Welcome to my shop. Today we're going to look at the process of making a cremation urn. It's a very personal type of object that's very functional, and it's a challenge to make one. We're going to walk through the entire sequence of steps on doing the video, including making the top, which has got two different parts. It's threaded, and we'll talk a little bit about how to size an urn. How do you figure out the correct volume you need, and how you verify that you've achieved that volume.
Okay, for this urn I'm starting off with a blank of wood that's approximately 7.5 inches across and 11 and a quarter inches tall. I've used my center finder, and I can tell that the pith is approximately on center because it had a pretty uniform balance on it, so I'm not going to bother to try to use that center. I'm going to center on the pith. Alright, you want to make sure your urn is big enough. Basically you need 1 cubic inch for every pound of weight, so that means for a full-size adult you want something just under maybe a gallon or so for a man. A gallon is 231 cubic inches. I measured this using sand. Angelo has great recommendations. He says buy a couple of pounds of rice if you're going to, but I'm only doing 1 or 2, and I had sand on hand, so that's what I used. Unfortunately, this is a little small for me. It's exactly 3 quarts and 2 tablespoons a cubic inch, so it comes out right at 175 cubic inches. The good news is I owe an urn to a cousin of my wife's, a lady, so this will fit her. She probably weighs no more than 150 pounds. This will hold up to 175 pounds individual, so be sure to size it properly. Then I'll move all the way across the log, getting rid of that bark. I'm going to make a tenon for the largest set of jaws I've got, which are my air. Because I want the jaws to fit on the outer size. And I can see that I do have the just a very slight taper here. Around, retighten it, and I've got to check this periodically since it's green wood. It's going to keep moving as it dries. Pi r squared times the height, which is going to be 1 inch, and then added them all together, and it came in just under 200, so I think that'd be adequate. I drew a few different ways to handle the top. Got my little, I think y'all see that little scale model there, and she said, "Yep, she'd like that." So that's where I'm going. So now all I have to do is match this to this profile. About 1,000. Alright, now all I do is smooth that out, I think. Yeah, slide it, shake it, half-inch detail gouge. Just put it right in here. Tool company, it's high-speed steel, it's 1 inch. I'll be able to get most of the way down. Pretty good idea. Okay, I see about where it needs to be. I'll go ahead and open it up to that. Okay, I've got my captive ring system set up. I'm ready to go. Let's not touch the wood. Turn the speed up. Okay, we're going to get the speed up to about 1,000. 3-pronged fork. This part's about as exciting as watching paint dry. Okay, now I'm going to start thinning the walls out. I'm going to change the head and adjust it a little bit.
Okay, this is not a detail hollowing lesson, but I'll show you how I changed to about 2 inches. You can see I can get the entire quill down in there to drill as deep as I need to go.
We're just going to start hollowing.
So basically, this is what we're going to do. We're going to use this fastening feature. No license hang ball, we're license here, screws here. So we're going to take this little 7 more paper out. Set that aside. Put that in here. Screw this in. And this just kind of gets centered a little bit. And then we're going to screw this on. I guess it's not universal. I think I'm going to use this on any number of other outform styles. We're using text on 40 now. Finish it up. My Nova Live center by simply popping it in. Because I want to take this down a little bit here on the inside, and I'll have an opportunity to do that. If this gets in the way, I'll just simply take this back some. No problem. Loosen the chuck slightly. Just lightly. Center it from this side. Don't want to put too much pressure there. I want to crack in the mouth of this. So it just gives it a little extra support. And it still looks pretty flush here. So let's see how that works. Let me turn the speed up slowly. Alright, let me put on a face shield. Now here's the sample that I turned, and then I took a spindle scrap and turned this to kind of replicate that, just to give me a feel for the size. And my wife likes it. I like it. Now, I wouldn't normally go this much trouble, except I haven't done many of these, so and this is a new shape for me, and a new fastener, different shape from the first urn I did. I think this piece I'll wind up turning from a piece of a cherry board, cross grain, and then I think I will use a piece of cherry burl to turn this. I need to make a collar of some sort that's threaded that'll fit in here, and then this piece will be a little bit longer and it'll be threaded for it to fasten together. So that's where I'm going, piece. And I'm going to thread the bottom of it, and that's going to fit into the threads that, on this piece of plastic that's going to be completely covered up, that's going to be the collar inside the urn with threads on the inside to accept this. So those are the components. It's a great fit, as we expected. Let's just take it out.
shape the plastic collar, I pulled up a little scrap that already had been used for tape, had a somewhat rough surface. I pulled with a little bit of adhesive off. Had a little nib here. I just shaped it a little bit to help center this. And I'm using a piece of double stick tape. I'm not bothering with Turner's tape because I'm going to use this as a friction tape. I just don't want the piece to spin, and this is certainly a little cheaper than Turner's tape. So I use this for occasions when I don't need the full strength of Turner's tape. So we slice it and then peel it. It's going to be messy. So we may have to use a scraper, but I'm going to see if I can use a spindle gouge. This stuff is messy. Messy to turn. Here. Just enough to give it a little mechanical fit there. And there's our little collar that'll fit in the recess of the urn. Give it a little extra support. Okay, I've taken that piece of plastic, turned it around, put a little collar on it, chucked it in these long jaws, so when I go to threading, I don't have to worry about hitting the back. This is the easiest threading there is. You just go straight in. So let's give it a shot. I'm using 10 threads per inch because I want a pretty coarse thread. This would hold a finer thread, but the wood I'll be using probably won't. So I'm going to turn this down to probably about somewhere below 300, maybe 200, 230. Now here's where we come to strike the thread, literally. We just hit it and just move at an estimated speed until we get it started, and then it'll just follow it. Okay, it's been drying about maybe 4 or 5 days in a bag, a couple of bags outside the garage. I'm developing a small crack, and I think that's because underneath this lip I didn't go all the way back to the corner. It's a little thick under here, so I'm going to go back under there with a gooseneck, try to clean this up a little bit. Then I'm going to wrap this with some cellophane shrink wrap tape to reduce the moisture so it'll force the drying on the ends. I've got to wait a little bit longer to finish the drying, but I roughed it out just a little bit. You can see this recess that's going to go down in here. I've got to take it down a little bit more. It's going to still continue to go oval, so I'll wait a little while. But okay, now I'm fixing to do the top that the knob will fit in. I'm going to cut a tenon here. I'm going to round this off, cut a tenon here for threading. Just a little leather scrap I kept in my drawer just for such a situation as this. I don't trust my eye without an aid, so let's put something flat, and it's a good thing because it would be rocking just a little bit in the middle. Oh, excellent. I can just hold this with my 50mm jaws. What I want to do is be able to hold this in a chuck that I can thread with. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do just like we did before. We're just going to face this in until we get a little bit of tenon that we can hold on normal jaws. Square this up. The final size. And I want to do as much of this now we've got something we can hold in chuck jaws and go ahead and thread the other end. The profile is subject to obviously to some change and cleanup, but we've got a lot of bulk removal done now, so I'm going to go ahead and change this. So I've sized this tenon to be just 76 thousandths of an inch wider than this the female recess for 10 threads per inch. I've cut a tiny little recess in the back so the threads will go off into the air. And you can see here I've added just a bit of texture. No reason, since it's going to be inside the urn, but if someone looks at it before it goes into use, they'll just see that extra care and attention that I've put into this. Okay, we got the threading jig set up. We just moved the chuck and put it on the threading jig. Mounted my cutter in here with the drawbar support. Steady the chuck with my hand and just slowly feed. Okay, I sized the tenon a little too large, so I had to go back several times for adjustments, but now we've got an excellent fit once I get it started. And you threads on easily, and that's what you want. Not real snug, and it snugs up when it registers against the back. So we're good to go, ready to. Okay, you can tell I got some severe cracking on the bottom. I probably should have drilled a hole out and plugged it, but seeing as how I'm going to take off this secondary tenon, the crack's not too terribly bad. I think I'll be able to fill that. The crack little bitty crack I had at the top has not gotten much worse, so I'll be able to fill that. Okay, I'm going to fine tune that recess just a little bit. I'm using a very, very narrow scraper, so I'll put very little pressure on this spinning piece of wood, because I'm extended a long way out. I'm going straight in. Check it. Let's make sure I got a good fit. Yep, and it's just about flat. That's good. All right, I sanded this down to 400. Now I'm ready to part it off. I'm trying to figure out how's the best way to do that. I think I'm going to reverse this with a drive center that will fit within this lip and put pressure here. I don't want to have anything that'll force it open, and then I'll work on it.
I reused the scrap that I used earlier to turn the plastic collar with to use as a drive center.
So the bottom of my urn was cracked so badly I had to put this glue block on it, and I put it on there with a hot glue gun and fastened it with a 5/16 inch threaded rod to my Nova live center that's threaded.
Okay, now I'm going to start bringing this down. The bottom, if I can find a pencil, the bottom of this is approximately here. I'm going to take it down to about here with a spindle gouge. Then I'm going down to here. Then I'll take it in and out, and then I'll finish off with a thin parting tool, and then I'll probably finish off with a flush cut saw. I get too aggressive. I think I'm through. Let's see this. Let me just take the last few strokes. There we go. Yep, I'll need to do a little bit of sanding on the bottom and refilling these cracks. But I like the shape. Now time to switch back to the top. Alright, time to finish shaping the lid. What I've done is I pulled out of my scrap bin a piece of plywood, construction pine, in which I'd already done 10 threads per inch, tapped it for a previous box project, and believe it or not, this thing actually fits. It's at least fits close enough that it'll handle this project. So I'm going to take this down just a tiny bit. Alright, I've calipered the top of my box and find out that it's just right about there. So I'm going to just mark that point. And I'm just going to bring it down. I'll take some of this plywood with me, but some of this construction pine, but that's okay. I'm going to use a small bowl gouge. I got tailstock support just to give this a little extra margin of safety. And we're just going to go from small to large. Alright, that's just about the right diameter. Alright, now we're going to drill a hole in here to accommodate this, and I need to figure out exactly what that... speed down to about 500. Hold on to the chuck. Ease it in. Okay, here's a shot of my completed urn. It doesn't have any finish on it, although the top's got one coat of Minwax Antique Oil, my favorite finish. And it's looking pretty good. There's only one problem. I came down to my shop today, and you can see it just split wide open. So I think the lessons learned, let me see if I can focus in on this a little bit. I did not make the bottom a uniform thickness. It was too thick and too heavy, which tended to force the split. I should have controlled the drying a little bit more before I put the collar in. I think what happened, maybe the collar, that might have been the coup de grace, it started shrinking a little bit at the collar. So, back to the drawing board. More practice. Sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you. Sometimes you turn and get a beautiful object and some experience. Sometimes you just get some experience. Well, I hope this was interesting, an interesting video for you and somewhat humorous. Just goes to show you when you do something new, you can be turning a long time, but if you're doing a new different process or new technique, there's a learning curve for all of us. So I'm anxious to get started on my next one. Thanks for watching.
If you're not a subscriber, I hope you'll consider subscribing and ring the bell so you'll be notified on future releases. I hope I've inspired you to try something new or different. Come on back again. Here.